Welcome to the Wise Fiduciary Podcast. I'm Marta Hurst, one of your hosts from Fiduciary Wise. Whether you're a thought leader, service provider, CEO, or decision maker, this podcast is for you. We break down best practices, the services and solutions available to you, discuss the latest topics, and shake up the industry norms. So join us as we explore, challenge, and navigate the future of fiduciary responsibility together. I'm Marta Hurst. I am a partner at Fiduciary Wise. I am a board certified fiduciary and qualified 401k administrator. I've got 20 years of experience in the retirement plan business, 17 on the TPA side. I joined Fiduciary Wise a couple years ago. And really, I am passionate about making sure employers understand what their responsibilities are and providing great retirement plans for their employees.
Marta, it is great to be with you here today. My name is Isaac Wood. I'm also with Fiduciary Wise. I'm an ERISA 402A specialist here. I've got over 13 years in the financial industry, and the last 7 have been focused on ERISA plans specifically. Like Marta, I have a shared passion for 401k optimization. There's plan sponsors across the country that are just unaware of or incapable of filling the very high fiduciary standards that ERISA and the Department of Labor puts on them. So they need help. And that's partly why we're here, to make sure that they get the help, whether it's from us or from those other service providers that they partner with. We had a great talk in previous episodes about those roles and responsibilities that that plan fiduciaries are responsible for. That as a plan sponsor, you are a fiduciary to your 401k plan. And what does that mean? We talked about the different roles and responsibilities, that there are some fiduciary roles and there's some non-fiduciary roles. And that you as a plan sponsor, ERISA expects that you either be an expert in those areas, or if you're not, that you bring in an expert service provider to handle those roles. And there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can delegate fiduciary responsibility to other providers to fill those fiduciary roles, or you can hire service providers to handle the execution of those non-fiduciary requirements and aspects of the 401k plan. Hey, I'm Isaac Wood with Fiduciary Wise. Did you know that over 92% of fiduciary risk can fall directly on the shoulders of you as the plan sponsor? ERISA's complex regulations make it easy to overlook key responsibilities, leaving you exposed to costly penalties or even legal action. At Fiduciary Wise, we help you mitigate that risk by acting as a named fiduciary, taking on the majority of those responsibilities. From managing investments to ensuring regulatory compliance, we handle the heavy lifting so that you don't have to. Our team is dedicated to protecting you and your employees, reducing your exposure to liability, and giving you peace of mind. When you partner with Fiduciary Wise, you can focus on running your business, knowing that your retirement plan is in safe hands. Let's talk about how we can help shield you from fiduciary risk. You can schedule a meeting today at fiduciarywise.com/scheduling. So now what we wanted to do was kind of double click, now that we've kind of reviewed at a high level what some of those responsibilities are. We wanted to double click into some of those and really kind of dig deep, roll our sleeves up and say, hey, for this specific area, what are some of the responsibilities, both fiduciary and non-fiduciary? And what are some of the resources that are available to you as a plan sponsor to execute on that, whether it's to delegate or to hire? So Marta, I think today we're going to walk into the concept of enrollment, right? And we offer a 401k plan, and it's there for participants, for employees to participate in it. In order to do that, they have to enroll in the plan at a very basic level. So we wanted to kind of frame this conversation around some fairly simple questions, right? Who, what, where, how, and when. So if we can answer all those questions, then I feel like whoever's listening will be a bona fide expert in the enrollment space. So why don't we kind of start off with that who question, right? So these seem like simple questions, but there's a lot to unpack just on a simple question of who enrolls in a plan.
Right. So who is eligible to enroll? So step 1 is identifying who is even eligible for your retirement plan. What are the requirements of your plan? So the legal plan document dictates what those eligibility requirements are and when the entry dates are. So employees meet their eligibility. Maybe there's a service requirement or an age requirement, and then there are entry dates. So maybe that is the same day that they meet eligibility, but likely it's, the following month or maybe quarterly. So you've got to figure out what those parameters are so then you can determine who is eligible. Also important to know the contribution types that are available in your plan. So what are people eligible to defer Roth contributions and pre-tax contributions? Are they getting matching contributions on any of those, and understand the limits that are involved in those? Also, any exclusions of types of employees. So occasionally, you might have an excluded class of employee based on a particular plan design. So it's important to understand who meets those requirements for the plan, who is eligible, so that you can provide them with the adequate information. One other thing that we talk a lot about is automatic enrollment. So automatic enrollment is over the years has become a much more popular option, and now even a required option for newer plans. So it's important that you understand what are the defaults. Is it 3%, 5%? When does all of that happen, and the timing of it?
And there's lots of different answers to those questions, right? Like and the answers should be dependent on your plan, your employees, the setup of your plan, what you're looking to accomplish for your employees, and how your hiring and firing processes work out, right? That maybe auto enrollment doesn't work for a plan that is got high turnover and is constantly bringing new bodies in. So it's important to have these who conversations when you're having a plan design conversation, whether that's at the creation of the plan, the first time that a 401k plan starts up, or maybe your plan's been around multiple years and it's time to have a conversation about, is this still accomplishing what we want it to accomplish? So at the beginning stages, at those plan design level, it's important to have the who conversation. Who is eligible for this plan? And then we'll touch on here in a little bit, then the when element of that conversation, right? But there's another part of who when we talk about enrollment, because once you've identified who from an employee perspective is eligible for your plan, then there comes a process once they become eligible, who is helping enroll that participant in the plan. And there's lots of
Yeah.
different service providers that have the capability to step into this role. And so, what are some of the possible answers for who helps enroll participants once we've identified who they are?
Now this is like one of those, is it A or B or A and B or A, B, and C? So
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
lots of providers that help with enrollments, and that tracking process. So sometimes, especially in the age of technology really taking off, there are services that help you determine who is eligible. Now, I am cautiously optimistic about AI and all that it is doing, and technology in our industry and every industry. Even if you are utilizing some of those services, you still have to, have some checks and balances to make sure that they are working appropriately. We work with a lot of plans, and I uncovered just last week a report that was run that didn't have the right information on it. So you can't just trust that it's going to work out and be great. But record keepers certainly have some of those capabilities, and a lot of them have. It depends on your record keeper and what additional services that they might offer. Some of them do offer education and enrollment assistance that you can utilize. A lot of times, advisors that are on the plan will help with the enrollment process, come out and do some education. Maybe they do it virtually. It doesn't have to be in person. And sometimes the HR team, the HR team probably should not be conducting the actual enrollment meeting, but certainly they might have a role in getting the information to the right people, or maybe there's a new employee orientation and they hand out information then, and making sure that the information needed for those participants to make a decision is available.
So if the question is who helps participants get enrolled in the plan, and your options are A, the HR department, B, your financial advisor, C, your record keeping provider, or D, some combination of A, B, and C, probably the answer most often is that D option, that it's really a partnership between multiple service providers where the record keepers are providing some of the materials and the capabilities to actually get involved in the plan. Sometimes they provide bodies to help run those meetings, whether virtually or in person. The financial advisor is able to add another body to that room, individual education and investment education as well, around getting involved in the plan. And then the HR department can provide, again, more bodies to help participants get engaged in the plan. But then also the HR department is the best resource for the culture of that company, right? To be able
Oh, yeah.
to incentivize the people to get involved. And so I think, best practices when you're looking at how those play together, it's oftentimes it's your HR department that's really kind of building the momentum with employees, encouraging them to take that step to get enrolled in the plan. The advisors helping them understand the investment philosophies and understanding the why behind investing. And then that record keeper is able to come in and really provide a streamlined way to actually execute the enrollment into the plan. But all
Yeah.
three of those parties can play different roles. And depending on what your plan is and your environment, those may be the different answers there. So those are the who, right? So we've asked who is available, determine who is available to be eligible for your plan, and then who's going to help those eligible employees actually enroll in the plan. But then that kind of brings in this natural next question then of when, right? So like when part of the decisions on the plan design front are who is eligible and like when in their career, what timeline are they eligible to participate in the 401k plan. But Marta, can you walk through maybe some decision points there around the thought process, the process and procedures around when do you allow employees to step into this plan? Is that an everyday thing?
So it does depend kind of on the culture of the business. So companies that have a lot of turnover don't typically want people immediately eligible for the plan because then they get in and then they leave and then they get out and then there's paperwork and there's process. So it really depends on what the employer is looking for and what they are trying to accomplish with their plan. We have quite a few plans that they want employees to be able to start putting in their money as soon as possible, but maybe they don't want to do a match for, a year down the road because they want to see that that person has stayed there. So it really depends. That's a great conversation. I think we can also extend when we talk in a few episodes about plan design, because when those decisions are being made, we have a client meeting in a couple of weeks. They have a new HR person, and then they said, "Why are we enrolling in this time frame?" Well, that was set up a while ago, and there are reasons, and we're going to talk about those, but that doesn't mean that they have to stay that way for forever. So if your culture changes, the dynamics of the organizations change, and you say, man, I think we could work it better like this, and maybe it even be a more beneficial to the participants, then that's something that can be amended over time.
Well, that's an important call out too, that whether you know it or not, there is a win timeline that's in your plan document, right? Like
Yeah.
you've designated your plan was designed in a specific way to allow participants, newly eligible participants, to enroll in the plan at a certain cadence, right? Whether that is every month or whether it's every quarter or whether it's first day of the month after they become eligible. Like there's lots of different ways that can be, but it is set up. So if you have a 401k plan right now and you don't know what that cadence is, it's important to know what that is. The good news is that it can be changed. It can
Yeah.
be changed. It can be updated, and that's something that can be fluid. But it's important to know what those parameters are because that's an answer that kind of is defined for you, the win.
Yes.
And so, go ahead.
I think the other win is when do we talked about who's involved in this process of enrollment. When do you engage those people? Because if your enrollment was August 1st and you're just meeting with people today, uh, you're a little behind the eight ball. So, your employees need that opportunity to enroll, and you don't want it to be 2 months out because then people say, "Oh yeah, let me think about this, and I'll take it home and look at it with my spouse," and then all their life stuff happens, and the
And then
form
I will
never makes it
forget
back
about
to
it.
you.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but also you don't want it to be like, okay, you have, I need to get this in payroll in 2 hours. So like, let's go wrap it up. So you need to allow like a reasonable amount of time for people to kind of take in the information, especially if they've not been part of a plan before. There's a lot of decisions to make. If they have automatic enrollment, you've got some mandatory timing things. They've got to be notified 30 days in advance. Well, and I say that, but there are exceptions, right? Like we've got plans that are you're immediately eligible and you have monthly entry. So if somebody was hired yesterday, they're eligible today. So sometimes it gets it gets a little messy, and so those are some of the kind of when and timing things that you've got to figure out. How do I
That's
make
the
sure that
value of
participants get
having
the
that's the
information they need?
value of having experts in the room, though, right?
Yes,
That
absolutely.
these what we're trying to highlight here today is all the sort of different decision points and all the aspects of a 401k plan. And this is we're just talking about the enrollment process here today, but the takeaway should not be I have to go be an expert in all these spaces. It's I need to make sure that I have service providers and partners that are experts in this space and make sure that they're able to help us put checks in all these boxes. So as we talk about the who, right? So the participants that are able to jump in, who's going to help us do that? We've talked about the timeline there of the when, but you brought up a couple examples of the what. What is it that needs to be communicated to participants? What is it that needs to be delivered to participants? And what's available to help whoever the who is?
Yeah.
What is available? What are they delivering to the participants to get enrolled in the plan?
Yeah. So we are looking at things like enrollment books, videos. So a lot of places have pre-recorded videos now. So again, working with your partners to figure out what kind of resources are available. And there are required notices that have to go to the employees, like a QDIA notice, for example. So what are they going to be enrolled in if they don't give you an investment election, or if it's automatic enrollment? What is the automatic enrollment percentage? Is the plan safe harbor? There's a safe harbor notice. The summary plan description has to go to the employees as well. It's like a 30-page document that they probably aren't going to read, but it outlines the provisions of the plan. There are a few people who really like that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter if they like it or if they want to read it. It's part of what's required that they receive. They also have to receive a 404A5 notice that outlines the expenses that are related to the plan. Does that sometimes create questions? Yes, it does. So then who's available and most most knowledgeable to answer any questions that come out about that kind of information? But your participants in any plan need enough information to make an educated choice about how much they're going to defer, where they're going to put their investments. So we do have some defaults, if you will. So again, if you're doing automatic enrollment, the employer has chosen a particular percentage. Typically it's a pre-tax, although you could technically do Roth. And then there's a qualified default investment alternative. So if a participant does nothing, they're going to go into the plan at a certain percentage into a certain investment, but they still have to have information. You can't just do that and say, well, we're an auto enroll plan, so it's fine. We've got everything we need.
Yep.
There's still information that has to be provided to those employees to let them know, okay, this is what the default is, but if you want to make a different election, here's how you do that. Here's how you log in online. Here's how you can expect to get information.
And so those enrollment decision points for a participant, there's three of them off the top of my head, and maybe there's more. But it's what percentage of my pay am I contributing to the plan? In what tax qualification am I doing that? So is
Mm-hmm.
it pre-tax or is it Roth, right? And then what investments are my dollars going to go into? So those are the three. If as a participant, you make those three decisions, you're enrolled in the plan and you're off and running, right? There's lots of education that can go on after that. But are there any other decisions that a participant makes as they're jumping into a plan?
Um, well, I hesitate to say required because again, we have a QDIA. So technically, if they don't make, well, your plan should have a QDIA. So if they don't make an investment election, there is going to be a something that they
That
go
decision's
into.
made for them then. Yeah.
Yes. And then
Predetermined.
so the only other part of the paperwork I would say is like a beneficiary form. So same thing. If they don't list it,
Good call.
typically there's the whatever state they live in has some kind of plan for them,
requirements. Or
but that
yep.
is something that we would prefer that, and I think the participant would prefer to fill it out themselves to make sure they are
And so
designating
those are
who
the
they want.
those are the decisions the participants making. So those are the areas that they need to be educated and informed in. And many of those, if not all of those decisions, can be defaulted. So if you're in an automatic
Mhm.
enrollment plan, that percentage amount, that tax qualification amount, and then a qualified default investment alternative, your QDIA can determine what the investment is. You can't, and some states default on the beneficiary part. So if a participant just makes the decision to enroll in a plan, if the plan is set up to do so, a lot of those can be defaulted, but that doesn't, to your point, Marta, doesn't relieve the plan fiduciaries from the requirement to have educated in that front. And
Right.
so it's good to know what decisions are the participants making as they're enrolling in the plan so that you can make sure that those decisions are being educated and supported. Hey, I'm Isaac Wood with Fiduciary Wise. With years of experience helping plan sponsors, TPAs, record keepers, and advisors navigate the complexities of retirement plans, I understand that every client has unique needs. That's why our MEP, PEP, and DC group of plan services offer complete customization. Whether you're managing multiple plans or looking to streamline administration, we tailor solutions that fit your goals while also ensuring compliance with ERISA regulations. At Fiduciary Wise, we don't just offer cookie cutter options. We work closely with you to design a plan that maximizes efficiency, minimizes risk, and gives you the control that you need. Imagine the confidence of knowing that you have an experienced team behind you, guiding you every step of the way. If you're ready to take your retirement plan to the next level, let's connect. You can schedule a meeting at fiduciarywise.com/scheduling to see how we can help. So we've got who, we've got what, we've done when. The where and the how conversation. How, where, and how can participants be enrolled into plans nowadays? This is a changing. This space is ever changing.
Yeah, so I would say, in the where, and we talked about this a little bit with the what is provided, but where do the participants get the information from? So not necessarily the provider, but like, is this an email that they are getting? Are you having an in-person meeting? Are you having a virtual meeting? Does HR literally handing out packets? What does where is that information coming from? And then the how does the process work? Can employees enroll online? Is it a piece of paper? Who is keeping track of that? And again, that required notice piece. How are you verifying that made it into the hands of all of your eligible employees each enrollment period?
And I would say very similar to our first two question, right? Where we had A, B, C, and then D, which was kind of like a collection, some combination of the three. This where and this how, I think oftentimes when it's being best practiced, um, there's multiple solutions there where it's not just everybody gets an email and it's over. There's some folks that it's better to be put on their desk. It's better to be mailed to them. It's better to have a verbal conversation in a conference room or whatever. That looks like it's a combination of all the different wheres and hows. That usually when you're seeing a plan really execute this at the highest level, it's multiple factors. There's multiple solutions being utilized so that individual participants are able to be communicated with in the way that works best for them.
Sure. I agree. I'm also going to say though, when we are talking about the written processes and procedures, which is my new favorite thing to talk about, when you write out what your process and procedure is, what is it? And so, if you are doing things in multiple ways, are you doing that every enrollment period, or maybe there's a special annual virtual meeting where you have all the service providers on, and maybe somebody was already eligible, but maybe this is an opportunity for some different types of information related to enrollment and where you're at or what decisions were made. So I think I like the concept of kind of meeting people where they are with how to enroll and how to get the information. But we also need to document that we are doing some of that in a repetitive, repeatable way. Okay, we always send out the notices electronically, and then in December we have a benefits fair, and all our 401k people come, or whatever that is. So then people get what they need, but then also from a HR turnover standpoint, or just business turnover in general, then people can see, well, this is how we do it. And if there are some nuances, well, this group, this office over here has a really great manager. They always like when we bring them donuts and talk about the 401k. Okay, but let's make sure that we are documenting our process and procedure that then we can repeat
It's a
no
great
matter
call out.
who's in the role.
For those that are using their Wise Fiduciary Podcast bingo card, it took you a lot longer to get to process and procedures than normally. Like usually that's something we get to a lot sooner. But you're right. I think Marta, you will bring that up on every single one of these episodes because it is so important that as we walk through these who, what, where, when, how questions, as the answers are put together, it all needs to be tied to a process that is documented, to procedures that are documented and then followed. And so it's important to have someone, whether it's the plan sponsor or a hired service provider, like maybe Fiduciary Wise, that is able to keep track of that, to not only create said process and procedures, to then implement and document the processes and procedures that have been defined. So it's a great call out. Last sort of topic here on this one, I think that we should touch on is we've kind of done the who, what, when, how, why, where, when, all the questions on participants. There's this element of contributions, right? And so and I don't know if it fits in the how or the who or the where or the when. It kind of fits in all of these. So that's where we're touching on it last. But this, how do you get the dollars that a participant says they want to give the 401k plan or contribute to the 401k plan? How do you get them into the plan as that participant said they wanted done? And so do you have any thoughts on the contributions, which really is sort of the execution of all the who, what, where, when, hows of a participant enrolling in the plan?
Yeah. So depends on your service providers and what you've got working for you in your plan. There are certainly some payroll providers that have integration with some different record keepers. So maybe you've got a payroll provider that is kind of tracking that information or getting that information from your online enrollment. But there are still companies that hand out paper forms, and then somebody in HR has to enter them into the payroll system. Again, I think there's a lot of great technology things happening, but you still have to make sure that those, do some checks and make sure that the information that you think is being provided to your payroll is being provided to payroll. There's still some just oversight of that process. And so, and then when you get that form, how do you make sure that it timely gets put in? So I'm going to bring up automatic enrollment again, because automatic enrollment is very forgiving when it comes to something getting missed. Typically, like if we have an enrollment meeting, Isaac enrolls, he gives the form to me, Marta, I go enter everybody's in there, and Isaac's form fell on the floor and I missed it for 2 months. And then Isaac says, hey, my 401k stuff isn't coming out. What's going on? If you have a regular 401k plan that does not have automatic enrollment, your rules for fixing that are different than if you do. You have a much longer window to fix automatic enrollment. You have a much lesser fix penalty, if you will. So there's a lot of advantages and benefits that I'm seeing to automatic enrollment. And when it first rolled out, my biggest concern was HR people are used to this process, these forms. We get this, we enter it in, to do it kind of backwards where everybody already has an election and then you're keeping track of who's out. Like there's bound to be a lot of mistakes happening because it's a very different process and procedure than what they were used to. But now there's a lot of forgiveness around automatic enrollment. So I used to be kind of nervous about, kind of dependent on the HR team, if that really might work well for them. But there's a lot of forgiveness over there. And certainly we're seeing larger participation numbers in plans with automatic enrollment.
And there's a growing list of benefits to having auto enrollment on your plan, that are coming from all sorts of legislative and legal parameters as well. But just because you have auto enrollment doesn't test you out of all the questions of who, what, where, when, how, why. It can help
Right.
answer and help implement some of those answers. But you can't just put a check in, we have auto enrollment, and now I don't have to think about enrollment, which hopefully after listening to this episode, you've got a good grasp on all that goes into it. And whether you're fully competent and able and capable to do that yourself, or maybe it's the need for bringing in competent and expert service providers to help execute just getting those employees enrolled in the plan. Because at the end of the day, that's what drives this health and success of the 401k plan, is getting the employees to actually enroll and take part in that employee benefit that's being provided to them.
I agree. And I thank you so much, Isaac, for joining me today. I think these
My
are so
pleasure.
much more fun for us to do together. So we appreciate everybody joining in. We would love to hear from you. And certainly you can visit our website. So thanks for tuning into the Fiduciary Wise podcast. We'd love to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, drop us a comment, send us a message. You can certainly schedule a meeting directly with us at fiduciarywise.com/scheduling. And don't forget to join us next time for more insights and discussions. See you in the next episode.
See you guys next time.